Morant with a running start. It dunks! Oh my goodness! Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn his heat. It's gone! Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining. Conley now with three. Count it! A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance. Adams going long. Morant! He hit it! Ja Morant, insanity!
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. Grizzlies win edition. My name is Keith Parrish. The Summer Grizzlies got their first victory of the season as Jaylen Wells hits the game winner at the buzzer. Jaylen Wells had a huge bounce-back game with 27 points and the game winner. On today's episode, I'm going to talk about this victory and the performance of Jaylen and also Cam Spencer and everybody who played. So, before we get there, just a word from our sponsor, SeatGeek. SeatGeek takes the confusion out of buying tickets. They have an easy-to-use, color-coded app that lets you know when you're getting a great deal on tickets. So if you need tickets for anything, check out SeatGeek and use my promo code FASTBreakBreak. That's FASTBreakBreak, same as my Twitter handle, and you will get $20 off your first purchase. So whatever event you're attending, if you need tickets, go to SeatGeek and use my promo code FASTBreakBreak, and new users will get $20 off. All right. What a game for Jaylen Wells in this second Summer League game. The Grizzlies did not have most of their regular Summer League players. As anticipated, there was no Zach Edey, Jake LaRavia, Gigi Jackson, Scottie Pippen Jr. All got the night off. That's kind of what we thought was going to happen. Some of the guys who didn't get to play in the first game, they got some opportunities, but mainly Jaylen Wells and Cam Spencer were given much bigger roles, and they both responded very impressively. Without those main four guys from the Summer League squad, the Grizzlies started Cam Spencer, Jaylen Wells, Deke Giroux, Kevon Harris, and Trey Jemison. That basically makes Jaylen Wells our power forward. I guess Cam Spencer is the point forward. I don't know. It's vaguely positionless. I'd call Deke Giroux a guard, but of course he can't shoot. Kevon Harris, sort of the point guard. Doesn't really matter. Those are the guys who got the opportunity. And on paper, I actually thought the Grizzlies would be a little bit shorthanded, and the way the game started, that looked to be the case. The Grizzlies fell down 29-11. The 76ers were very hot in the first quarter. They made 6 out of their first 8 three-pointers and put the Grizzlies in this 18-point hole. But at that point, actually Cam Spencer came alive. Cam Spencer, he drilled back-to-back threes to get the Grizzlies back in the game a little bit. And then in the second quarter, that's where Jaylen Wells really started going. And what's interesting about this Jaylen Wells game, or maybe another fun narrative to it, of course, his first debut game was terrible. He went 1 out of 9 from the field, missed his final 8 shots of that game. Well, guess what? He missed his first 4 shots of this game. Jaylen went scoreless in the first quarter. His first shot was an air ball. Yet another 3-point attempt from Jaylen that missed the rim. Actually, after the game, in his post-game walk-off interview, he acknowledged that he hadn't shot this many air balls in a game, like in any game that he can remember. So I guess that's good. At least he noticed he was missing the rim a lot. But Jaylen missed his first 4 shots, and then in the second quarter, he finally makes one. This is a guy who's now missed 12 straight shots in Summer League. He makes this circus shot after getting fouled on a fast break. And maybe you say, the basket opened up for him at that point. I mean, technically, he still missed a couple jumpers after that. But then at the end of the second quarter, he drilled a beautiful above-the-break three-pointer. It seemed to be off of a set play, and then he followed that up with like a 15-footer, and he finishes the half with a shot in traffic, giving him an 11-point second quarter. That brought the Grizzlies level. It erased that entire 18-point deficit. It tied up the game at 49. By the way, Cam Spencer, he had an 11-point first quarter. So Cam did most of the scoring in the first quarter. In the second quarter, it was Jaylen Wells who had it going. Now, this game overall, you see the game winner, you see the 27 points. There still were a lot of missed shots. It wasn't all smooth sailing for Jaylen Wells. The Grizzlies as a team had a very awful third quarter shooting. They were just 5 out of 20 overall as a team in the third quarter. And despite that, they hung in the game. The Sixers won this quarter 18-16. And that, again, despite the Grizzlies only making 25% of their shots. But then in the fourth quarter, when it mattered, you had Cam Spencer making big shots, making big plays, and you had Jaylen Wells making some big shots. I think my favorite plays from Jaylen outside of the game winner are the 2 corner three-pointers he hit. He had one off of an assist from Cam Spencer where he got fouled. It was a 4-point play, big play in the fourth quarter. And then he had one later from the other corner where he swishes the corner 3 to give the Grizzlies the lead 85-83. And then on the final possession, with the game tied at 85, the Grizzlies actually possessed the ball for like the final 35 seconds because of offensive rebounding. And frankly, outside of Jaylen Wells, the story of this game, like if this was a regular season game, the story of this game would all be about the offensive rebounding. On the final play, Jaylen Wells gets the offensive rebound. You want to shout out Deke Giroux keeping the play alive, getting a finger on the ball after Isaiah Miller's miss. But Jaylen Wells swoops in, picks up the ball, makes the floater at the buzzer, and the Grizzlies win. So Jaylen Wells' overall shooting numbers, 9 for 23. Started off 1 for 7. Still not ideal. 27 points on 23 shots. And then you combine it with the first game, the numbers are still terrible, but a awesome game, a scintillating performance from Jaylen. Again, bouncing back from the 1 for 9 performance in the first game and delivering when it mattered. And one thing about Jaylen Wells' game, and something that actually occurred in the first game that I didn't mention, in the first game, in the loss against the Jazz, Jaylen Wells finished with 7 rebounds, 3 of them offensive rebounds. In this game, he finished with 6 rebounds, 4 of them offensive rebounds. Now, maybe that's just the ball bouncing his way. It feels like an aberration for a floor spacer to end up with 7 offensive rebounds through 2 games. But maybe, just maybe, we can be hopeful this means he has a nose for the ball, that his feel of anticipating where the ball is going could be one of the benefits to his game. I mean, it's still early to say that, but I am noting 7 offensive rebounds for Jaylen Wells after 2 games, including the offensive rebound on the play to win the game against the 76ers. Now, speaking of feel for the game, his fellow second-round pick, Cam Spencer, that guy could play basketball. He flirted with a triple-double. He finished with 18 points, 8 assists, and 7 rebounds. He flirted with a quadruple-double, if you want to count fouls. He had 7 fouls. He was so solid and steady all game, and this is on the heels of a really good debut game against the Jazz. Cam Spencer has looked great so far. I mean, that's what you would hope from a 24-year-old in Summer League, but also getting that performance from a 57th pick is very impressive. So Cam Spencer also handled a lot of the ball handling duty, and I'm extremely impressed with him only turning the basketball over 1 time. 8 assists and 1 turnover from like a not traditional primary ball handler is really, really good. I mean, maybe some of that has to do with the defense that the Sixers were playing. They played zone most of this game, or for a lot of this game. I didn't track it, but the Sixers played a lot of zone. You do not normally see that in Summer League basketball. You don't see it that frequently in the NBA, although Nick Nurse was kind of famous for using a lot of zone when he was with the Raptors. The Heat used zone a good bit. But anyways, the Sixers were playing zone. Maybe that meant they had a little bit less ball pressure, allowing the Grizzlies to take care of the basketball, allowing Cam Spencer to take care of the basketball. The Grizzlies, after having 20-something turnovers last game, they only finished with 9 turnovers as a team in this one. But the zone by the Sixers, I mean, maybe that is one of the reasons the Grizzlies got so many offensive rebounds. As a team, the Grizzlies had 26 offensive rebounds. That is a preposterous number. Maybe it's Grizzlies talent. Maybe it's Sixers talent, not having good rebounders. Maybe it's a combination. I would say it's a combination of kind of three things: Grizzlies talent, Sixers talent, and also the zone strategy. One of the traditional criticisms of playing zone is it makes you bad at rebounding because your guys don't know who exactly to box out. But the Sixers, who, by the way, were not a good rebounding team last year, that is a hole on their roster right now as you look at their team, which made a big splash with all their free agent signings. Like, rebounding is a concern for that team, and their summer league squad reflected those concerns by giving up, again, a absolutely outrageous number of offensive rebounds to the Grizzlies. But the highlight of this one is the Grizzlies' second-round rookies combining for 45 points and delivering this shorthanded win. But of course, they got help. I mean, you got to say the guys who stepped up in the place of Jake LaRavia, Gigi Jackson, and Zach Edey, like, they delivered. You have Deke Giroux, who you remember from regular season games last year. Deke fills up the box score. It's just what he does. He had 12 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and a block. Made 5 out of his 10 field goal attempts. Trey Jemison, he picked up 8 of those 26 offensive rebounds. His offensive performance, I think, is a disappointment. It showed some of the issues that he had last year with finishing the basketball. He was 3 out of 9 from the field, but his total stat line, 6 points, 11 total rebounds, 1 assist, 1 block. Kevon Harris got the start. I would say it's been a disappointment for Kevon Harris so far. He hasn't been able to flourish through 2 games. Kind of like I thought he would. Maybe he's struggling with the low usage role. And maybe that's an aspect of how Jaylen Wells had such a good game. Like, Jaylen Wells, low usage in the first game, struggled to hit shots. This one, without Gigi Jackson and Jake LaRavia taking shots, he had maybe a chance to work through it a little bit more. He could start off slow. He could still miss some shots, but then come through big when it mattered. But anyways, Kevon Harris scored 3 points in 20 minutes. All of his field goal attempts were 3-pointers, which is not what I remember about his game. I remember him being more of a slasher, but we haven't seen that so far through 2 games on the Summer Grizzlies. Kevon also got 2 assists. Also, you credit the Grizzlies bench, guys who didn't play in the first game. Timmy Allen, who's a hustle player from last year and showed up on the main squad. Timmy Allen played well, 8 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist, and 1 steal. Freddie Gillespie, big man, got in this one. He managed to get 3 offensive rebounds in his 14 minutes. He also blocked, in my mind, a Dembona's dunk attempt. He got called for a foul, but it looked clean to me. Now, one of the bench guys who didn't have the best game was Isaiah Miller. Isaiah Miller was a woeful 3 for 18 from the field, but he did play the entire fourth quarter, and you give him credit for being a scrapper. My bulletin points about him last episode, they still seem accurate. He's good at getting steals. He's really bad at shooting. But again, I credit him with getting 5 offensive rebounds in this game, getting 3 steals, and also, if you want to credit him for the Kobe assist on the Jaylen Wells game winner, I will not stop you. And speaking more actually to Cam Spencer's game, I'm looking at my notes. A couple more things I wanted to mention about Cam Spencer. Maybe I'll highlight some of my favorite plays from this game. The thing that I've really enjoyed from Cam Spencer so far is just the overall feel for the game. And I say feel for the game, that's highly subjective. It's hard to quantify sometimes. I mean, you could say you quantify it in this one by the number of rebounds he got and the assists he got. But both him and Jaylen right now, they look like just good overall basketball players who naturally can anticipate things, who are constantly in movement. They slide to get open. They chase down loose balls. And I feel like that is an important thing. And sometimes it's hard to put your finger on it. And it's maybe like you know it when you see it. And again, it's highly subjective. You can say it maybe about any player that you enjoy watching, but so far it looks like hopefully those guys do have just really good feel. When you combine that with the shooting skill, that becomes a highly useful player. There are a few more things from this game, plus I have some notes about the first game, and then we have news about Ja Morant and Zach Edey betting odds. I'll get to all that as I wrap up the show after this short break. All right, just a few more notes to wrap up this show. I guess first I want to go over some of my favorite plays that I haven't mentioned yet. First, shout out Deke Giroux for the incredible steal in the first half. He just ripped the ball away from the dribbler, Kawhi Leonard style. Those are some of my favorite defensive plays. There was the Cam Spencer play where he came up with the loose ball. He made Ricky Council IV lose his shoe, and then Cam Spencer drains the corner three-pointer. And then Jaylen Wells, yet another good play from him. The long step back at the shot clock buzzer showed great awareness and that beautiful shooting style. I said right after the draft, looking at his videos on YouTube, that his shooting style, his jumper reminds me of Trey Murphy. Maybe that's optimistic. I also feel like after 2 games, Jaylen Wells is very reminiscent of one of my top trade targets that I keep mentioning. He's maybe Cam Johnson light. Like, he's very similar perhaps to Cam Johnson. I mean, that's an irresponsible comp after 2 Summer League games. My irresponsible comp for Cam Spencer after 2 Summer League games is Luke Kennard plus John Conchar. Combine those 2 guys, that's Cam Spencer. Not as good shooting, of course. Probably not as good of a rebounder as Conchar. And I'm not saying he's better than those guys right away. That's why I call it an irresponsible comp. By the way, going back to Cam Spencer, and just thinking about how nice he's looked through 2 games and thinking about how that's such a win for the Grizzlies on their roster if they can get those contributions in the regular season with him being on a 2-way spot. And also when you think about Scottie Pippen Jr. looking really good and being a good player on your 2-way spot, I feel like it's worth re-emphasizing. And I saw Parker Fleming post this on social media. I feel like it's good re-emphasizing the point that Parker made that I've said before. Having good players on 2-way contracts, that's a really good thing. That is an advantage for you. You do not need to be plotting to figure out how you're going to get them onto regular roster spots and give them regular contracts. We don't need that. Getting contributions from 2-way players is an advantage for building your roster because you don't have to use a roster spot on those guys. So just every time I see somebody saying like, oh yes, Scottie Pippen Jr. is our backup point guard, we got to get him on the real roster. No, we don't. We get to have him on a 2-way contract. It's great. The limitation for 2-way spots is you can't play in every game. I don't think you're going to need Scottie Pippen Jr. in every game. I don't think you're going to need Cam Spencer in every game. And then there's also the limitation that you can't play in the playoffs if you're on a 2-way contract. Guys, we don't need Scottie Pippen Jr. in the playoffs. If we do, something went horribly wrong with injuries. Will we need Cam Spencer in the playoffs? I mean, there's no way to know after 2 Summer League games. Also, if he proves it in the regular season that, hey, this guy actually is a combination of Luke Kennard and John Conchar, well, then we cross the bridge when we get there. But for now, having good players on your 2-way spots, that's enough. That is a win when you're building your roster out. Now, let's look back to a couple of things about the first game. The overtime loss to the Jazz that was very, very close. I thought this was notable, and I didn't mention it last episode because I was having trouble getting NBA.com's box scores to work for me. In the second half, this is second half in overtime of game 1 of a very close game, of course, a very close loss to the Jazz in the second half and overtime. Jake LaRavia and Gigi Jackson were a combined 2 for 15 from the field. If you want to include Scottie Pippen Jr., the 3 main offensive players for the Grizzlies against the Jazz were 5 for 22 from the field in the second half and overtime. And that includes 0 for 7 from 3. They also combined to have 3 assists and 5 turnovers. Those are horrible numbers, and you know I have an affinity towards the bad numbers. But I thought that was notable and worth mentioning. And finally, for the shorter episode, Ja Morant has been cleared for all basketball activity. He can play full contact basketball. This is not something I was worried about, but that news came out. And Zach Edey, after his 14-point, 15-rebound, 4-block debut in Summer League, Zach Edey is now the betting favorite for Rookie of the Year. Now that sounds impressive when you say it like that. He's still plus 600, which is a long shot to win Rookie of the Year, as it is a very wide open field. Also, like I said a couple episodes ago, before he played his first Summer League game, he was plus 700. He trailed Alex Sarr, who was plus 650. Now Edey has moved to plus 600 and front of the line for Rookie of the Year odds. However, right after the draft, maybe this is more impressive, and this was shared with me in my own Grits and Grinds Slack channel over at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. Right before the draft, though, Edey was plus 1,200 for Rookie of the Year. So right after the draft, he trailed Alexander Sarr, Reese Shea, Stephon Castle, Modest Buzelis, Reed Shepard, Tajon Salon. He trailed all of those guys, or he was tied with Tajon Salon. But Edey has been slowly moving up the betting boards, and then after his really good debut game, he is now the betting favorite for Rookie of the Year. And hopefully we will see him back in action tonight on Wednesday, July 10th. Of course, he did turn his ankle in that game on Monday. I am hopeful. I feel like we're expecting him to play. Jason March said after Tuesday's game that some of the guys who played on Monday, they're expected to be back on Wednesday. Although, I think we got to hold our breath whether or not they let Zach Edey play. Maybe they hold him out until the Vegas game on Friday. But if we're lucky, we will get to see Zach Edey go at it once again against the Thunder. That's at 6 p.m. Central on Wednesday night. And with that, I will wrap up this episode. I think I will have an episode out tomorrow morning, but it's possible I will not. I am traveling to Las Vegas on Thursday. I am not exactly certain when the next episode comes out. Hopefully at the latest Saturday morning, but just make sure you're subscribed to the Grits and Grinds YouTube channel or subscribed to Grits and Grinds, whatever podcast app you are listening to this on. Anyways, if you want to support this show, do that at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. Thanks to Ichi, who signed up for the Patreon after last episode. If you sign up at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast, you get at least one bonus episode a month. You can join the Slack channel. You can join the Grits and Grinds Grizzlies exclusive Slack channel. Also, you can play fantasy basketball with me and other listeners when the time comes. So if you want to support the show, do that. Patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. If you're shopping for tickets at SeatGeek, use that promo code FastBreakBreak for $20 off. All right. Hope you guys have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. Go Grizz.